Thanks for tuning in, everybody. My name is Brock Page, and I do random sports picks for fun. You also might be surprised as to who I'm picking in the NBA today. If you just can't wait and you want to save yourself some time, check out my picks for this video in the description section below. Once again, I have to remind you that I am not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. A wise man once said, "Good ain't free and free ain't good." So if for some reason you decide to use the free information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. And with that said, let's get into some picks for the 30th. First game, Brooklyn +6 at Detroit with the total at 213. Currently the Pistons are laying 250 on the money line, and at the moment 57% of the bettors think Detroit gets the job done. Speaking of the Pistons, they're 17-11 as the official home favorite despite their current skid. They're facing a Brooklyn team who's failed to cover in 2 of their last 3 and just 10 of 25 in games at the current point spread. On a side note, both teams' games have gone under the line in their last 2 straight. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick, and I think this one stays under 213. And when it comes to the moneyline cash, I think Detroit wins it. I'm not committing to the spread in this one, but if I had to make an official pick, I'd be leaning toward Detroit -6 getting the job done. However, don't book that pick. It's unofficial. Next game, Cleveland at Chicago. The betting opened up with the Cavaliers as the 6-point favorites with the total points at 212.5. Since Cleveland's now -5.5 against the spread with the total points dropping down to 210.5. Currently the Cavs are laying 215 on the money line, and at the moment 58% of the bettors think Cleveland gets the job done. Speaking of the Cavs, they've not only failed to cover 3 of their last 4, they've also failed to cover in their previous 3 matchups with Chicago. Speaking of the Bulls, they covered 3 of their last 4 and a solid 64% as the official home underdog. On a side note, Chicago's last 4 games have all gone over the total posted points. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick as I'm taking the Chicago Bulls +5.5 getting the job done against the spread. When it comes to the total points, I think this one goes over 210.5. And when it comes to the moneyline cash, I think Cleveland wins it in a close one. Next game, LA Lakers +10.5 at Minnesota. Total points drop down to 220.5. At the moment, 59% of the bettors think the Lakers get the job done. Speaking of Los Angeles, they've struggled against the number as of late, failing to cover in 3 of their last 4. They've also covered just 12 of 33 versus teams under 500. On a side note, 2 out of both teams' last 3 games have gone over the total posted points. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick as I'm taking the Minnesota Timberwolves, winning this one outright for some moneyline cash. I'm foregoing the spread and total in this one, but I'm leaning towards the T-Wolves -10.5 and the over 220.5. However, don't book that pick. It's unofficial. Next and final game for the show, Houston -1 at Portland with the total points at 228.5. Currently, the Rockets are laying 115 on the money line, and at the moment, 68% of the bettors think Houston gets the job done. Speaking of the Rockets, they've covered 2 of their last 3, and have gone 2-0 against the spread versus these very Portland Trailblazers. Speaking of the Blazers, they're covering just 30% of their games at the current point spread, despite their current hot streak. On a side note, 2 out of both teams' last 3 games have gone under the total posted points. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick, and I'm in full agreement with the bettors. I think Houston -1 gets the job done against the spread. I'm foregoing the total points and the money line in this one, but I'm leaning toward the under 228.5 with the Rockets winning outright. That said, don't book that pick. It's unofficial. Before I wrap it up here, let's take a look at my heavily scrutinized teaser picks. Some folks feel as if my teaser picks should not count towards my total win-loss. Valid argument, I guess. With that in mind, my teaser picks will be a separate part of the program. The following parlay is a 10-point 4-pick super teaser. Pick number 1, Brooklyn +16. Pick number 2, Chicago +15.5. Pick number 3, the over 210.5 in the Cleveland-Chicago game. And my 4th and final pick of the teaser, Houston +9. Wow, that is so anticlimactic. Just a reminder, my 10-point Sweetheart Super Teasers pay 5 to 6 and get graded as a loss. Should any game result in a push, you can find this exotic wager in several online sportsbooks and in the state of Delaware. Well, folks, that is going to do it for me. Once again, I have to remind you that I am not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. A wise man once said, good ain't free, and free ain't good. If for some reason you decide to use the free information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. Most importantly, if you're betting any of these games, do it safe, do it responsibly, and most important, have fun. For Brock Page, predictions, and sports picks, I'm Brock Page, and have yourself a positive day.